Hello, this is Angela from Weft. Today's tutorial is how to make these gilded textured tags. A list of supplies is listed in the information box below the video and will be explained during the video. Now I have listed the supplies that you need in the box below. However, I'll just run through them quickly here. I've just got a piece of 7 by 4 cardboard. That's 18 by 10 centimeters, 7 by 4 inches. This was just off, I think it was left over from Christmas cracker box. It's white on one side, it's just the greyish colour on the other side. You can use any piece that you like. It doesn't matter if it has printing on this side because the printing will be covered over. You'll be able to see it through the napkins, but you won't be able to see it once you've put the acrylic paint on top of the napkins themselves. So I just took that. I've got some glue here that I've mixed 4 parts glue to 1 part water. It's PVA glue. It depends really on the quality of the glue. The quality that I've used here isn't that great. That's why I've gone to 1 part water to 4 parts glue. If I was using a better glue, I might go 2 parts water to 4 parts glue. We'll need a brush to apply it with. You don't need a soft brush because part of the whole process here will be to make it give it a wrinkled look, and so you're not worried about making it nice and soft. It doesn't matter if it's a cheapie like this, and it's just a plain bristle brush. You'll need some serviettes, plain white serviettes. These are cheap ones from Coles. These work really well. And you'll need some paints. So I've got 3 paints here. These are Janson Art Traditions. So I've got black, red violet, burnt sienna. It doesn't matter what paints you use as long as they are acrylic. And the last thing I have here is some gilding paste. This is Gold Treasure gilding polish. I'm going to give this a try. It's a metallic gilding polish that creates a metal polished sheen and shimmering on your work, and that dries as well. And then just a pair of scissors. So I'm going to cut off the corner of my card to make it into a tag, and then I'm just going to use the other corner, cut off corner, to cut the other corner so that they are both the same. Okay, now I have my card. I'm going to start covering this with my paper towel, my paper serviettes. So unfold your serviette. These are 2-ply, I think. Nope, my eyes, they're 1-ply. So you can get these 1-ply, 2-ply, 3-ply. These are only 1-ply, so I don't need to pull them apart. So I'm just going to cut them into pieces. You can cut or tear, it doesn't really matter. Myself a stack of pieces. No need to be particularly careful about how you cut these out. In fact, I might start stacking them and make it a bit quicker. And you're probably going to need 2 of these. Okay, so the exercise. Now, cover your tag with a good layer of the glue. You can do this in parts if you wish. You don't want to cover the whole thing in one go. And then start laying your pieces of serviette over. Yeah, of course this one's not going to unfold on me. Here we go. Okay. So you just need to lay them over. It doesn't matter if they go over the edge, that's fine. put a layer of glue over the top of those as you're working. No need to get these smooth, as I said. In actual fact, it's probably better if they're nice and wrinkled. Gives a nice effect. So I'm just going to put some glue over there. I've missed a bit up there, so I'll just pop another piece over the top. This one nice and wrinkled. The one that doesn't want to come apart. Keep laying these on and gluing them down until you have the whole card covered. And the more wrinkled they are, the better the effect when it's finished. So I'm just going to smooch some of that up so it's nice and wrinkled. Torn in a little bit there. Just stick that bit back down over there. I'm going to put a second layer on. Oops, I haven't finished that layer down there. I'll start my top layer. Again, it doesn't matter if the layers are uneven, if you've got more in some areas than others. This is a pretty forgiving technique because we want it nice and rough. So the more you do that, the more uneven it becomes and the rougher it becomes, and that will help with our texture. Wrinkle this up a little bit more. Okay, so we've got 2 layers on. This is not going to be our final layer because I want this to dry first, for the simple fact that the edges are not going to be covered with anything. So in order to seal the edges, I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'll trim the excess dried serviette off, and then I'll put another layer on, and I will fold that over to the back so there's not too many wrinkles and there's not too much thickness on the back. So now this is dried, it's time to cut it out. So I'll get my rusty, trusty, painty scissors and I'll just snip off the excess paper. And pull that bit down. I think I'll go back and pull this off too. Once the tag has been trimmed, we need to put a final layer of the serviette over the top. Now this time it does matter that you cut it a little bit neatly, because we're going to fold the edge over to the back just to hold everything together. So I've already cut some pieces of tissue serviette here, and I'm about to start gluing them on. So I'm going to start with the side, and I'm going to lay the serviette so that it only just goes over the edge, both at the top, the side, and at the bottom. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I've just put some more glue on this, glue it down. Then I'm going to lay another piece over the other side, again just leaving a little edge all the way around. And sealing that down. Now I'm going to do one across the top. Okay, so I'm going to extend the glue out a little bit beyond on the top one, so that I actually have a little wet patch and I can tear away that excess along here. Don't want it a bit too much. I'm just going to pop that bit back. So I have some to fold over. I'll try and do this a bit better this time on this side. Okay, just might put that piece just on the top to give it a bit of a wrinkle, a bit more wrinkle. Then I'm going to turn it over. Just glue on the serviette and just flip the edge over. I need to lift it up a bit to get the edge to go over there, over the top. A bit of glue underneath that. Glue there, glue that down. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to turn that on that side. Take that bit off. And just along the bottom. Just seals this all in. Now I'm going to leave that to dry. So now that the tag is dry, the next part is to paint with my acrylic paints. So I'll start off with the brown, I think, the brown, the burnt sienna. Just put a little bit off here. This is only a piece of cardboard box, so it doesn't matter if I put the paint on there as a palette. So I'm just going to paint the tag. Now I'm going to change colour. I'm going to add a little bit of the red violet blend that in, making sure I get into all the crevices, or else you're going to end up with white flecks in your work. Bit of red up there, a bit of brown down here, just for a bit of interest. And then I'll take the black. You need a very small amount of the black. And I'm just going to put the black in patches and blend it in. Doesn't matter if the black doesn't get right down into the crevices. Just adds a little bit of interest. And I like to put it down the bottom part of the tag particularly. Now that it's quite a warm day today, will dry quite quickly, so I'll just dry that off and I'll come back and show you the gilding process. Once the paint has dried, it's time to do the gilding. So I'm using this metallic gilding polish. It does have a sponge with it. When you first get it, the sponge is clicked inside. Just need to push it to one side and it comes out. Now you need to prime it first, so you have to prime it with some warm soapy water and then squeeze out as much of the water as you can. Then just put a little bit on. If you put on too much, you're just going to cover the whole thing with the gold, and it won't look like gilding, it just look like you've painted it in gold. So very little amount and a very light brush over the top, so it just stays on the tops of the wrinkles. And gives it a little light gild. If you go a bit too heavy-handed, this does dry very quickly. I did that on one piece that I did a while back, and I was able to paint over it and redo the gilding. So just a little bit down the sides here. So not to worry if you think you've spoilt it. No, you haven't. You can just wait for it to dry, repaint it and re-gild it. Just around the edges like that. No need to wash the sponge out, or I haven't washed the sponge out in a couple of days that I've been using this, and just pop the lid back in. I'm just going to continue using one that I made before while I wait for the other tag to dry. So once it's dry, you need to do something with the back. Now originally my idea was that I was going to cover this with white gesso. I think I've changed my mind and I'm going to use some coffee dyed cardboard on the back. I think it will give a smoother finish. So just take my piece of coffee dyed cardboard. This is lovely, it's got lovely kind of stains all over it. Makes it look really old and authentic. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this when I can get my glue to work. Just a little bit of glue all the way around. And a squiggle all over the middle. Now just make sure I haven't got paint on the back of that. Good. I'm just going to glue this on. Leave a little rim around it. Press it down and wait for it to dry. So as you can see, there isn't any, this is residual from what I was doing before, but none of the gold has come off on my hands. It's completely dry. Okay, and then just trim around the edge. Be careful not to cut the edge of your work. Okay, now I think I will ink that on the back. So I'm just going to get some distress ink. I'm using ground coffee and a sponge dauber. I'm just going to give it a light inking around the edge. Okay, just leave that to dry, and then I'm ready to decorate it. So here is the finished piece that I started with. I have put the coffee dyed cardboard on the back and inked around the edge, and I finished it off with a piece of this is coffee dyed vintage seam binding that I have just cut a piece, angled the edge, folded it into a bit of a triangle, so just like this, and then I glued that on like that so that the edges fell apart a little bit. I glued that on. Then I added some coffee dyed muslin, a die cut that I had inked in a paler gold, and then I just added a little half pearl to it. And I will probably do the same with this one, so we'll give that a go. Just cut this piece of coffee dyed seam binding. There's a little bit of glue. Pop that down, press it. The glue does go through, which makes it a whole lot easier to put the muslin on. So I'm just going to chop a piece of muslin here. Doesn't matter about the shape. Just pull it around. Let's put a little bit more glue on there. Make it a bit wider. Place that on there. Just bunch it up a little bit. Strings of glue everywhere. Me and glue are not good friends, as you can see. Okay, let's see what I've got in the way of some die cuts here. What am I going to use? think I'll use this little dragonfly here, put it on the top. You see the writing from underneath that, so I'm going to put some ink on that just to cover it up. That's not working terribly well. Maybe I should put some paint on it. Nope, not at all. Doesn't want to stick. Okay. Little bit of glue, paint. I think I might make him black. Paintbrush. Add a little bit of black there. I'm going to leave that red there. It looks quite nice. Just cover over the writing with a little bit of black. This was a bit of a biscuit box. This dragonfly. Not too worried that it's still wet. Just add a little tiny bit of glue to the top part of the body. I'll leave the bottom part free so it kind of has a bit of depth to it. Get my strings out of the way. Okay, and I'll glue my dragonfly like that. Now I've got some little bronze stick-ons here. Of course that paint's wet, so it's not going to stick. Yes, it is. Okay. And there we have another tag.